Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today it's a New Year's Eve special video, and this is basically a subscriber request video all about the note of Olibanum, also known as frankincense or incense. And this is going to stick with my theme of making the series that I decided to call This Is Not a Top 10, because it's not a top 10. It's basically fragrances that I've just grabbed from my collection that are either all about the incense note or incorporate the incense note into what the fragrance is in totality. Now, before we get into it, I want to do scent of the day. I am on an oud kick, as you can see. This is Diptyque Oud Infini, and this is only a 7.5 ml decant. It comes like this in this beautiful packaging. This is a very expensive fragrance, hence why I did not spring for the full bottle. And it comes in this beautiful little atomizer right here, which is basically just a lipstick atomizer. Pops up like this, and there's the juice. And look at the color of that. Just absolutely gorgeous. This is probably the screenshot Google will take, or YouTube will take for my thumbnail. It uses Laotian oud, which has a rubbery animalic stink to it. This is not a beginner's fragrance. And I pulled out, just so you could see, I pulled out a comparison that is not as expensive, that doesn't maybe use the real oud that the Diptyque uses. By the way, this was the first fragrance that she ever launched in her brand. What a gutsy release. And the one that I think most closely resembles this, some people say Oud Ispahan. I can't speak to that because I've never smelled it, but this is a 10 ml decant of Oud Palau. So if you're interested in the Diptyque and you don't want to drop big money on it, Diptyque claims to use also Laotian oud in this, probably more of the synthetic variety, but maybe there's some real oud in this, I don't know. But I love them both, actually. I almost would say I love them both equally, even though this is $400 a bottle, and this is probably $100 a bottle, or whatever it is. But again, when you have a big collection, these 10 and 15 ml bottles are blessings in disguise, because you don't always need a full bottle of juice just sitting on your shelf waiting to be worn. Next, I want to show you, before we hop into the fragrances, I want to show you what actual Olibanum looks like. This is actual Omani Olibanum, and my father brought this back from Oman. And this is basically how they come. They come in these little tiers, is what they're known as, Olibanum tiers. And even without burning them, you can smell them. They have this white little dust on top, and you can smell, they smell lemony. They smell very fragrant, even without, they smell piney, even without burning them. You can sense the odor of them. I made some notes. I'm going to try to tell you guys a little bit about the material. Some of this is new to me. The first thing is that Olibanum has been used for 15,000 years or more, potentially, in human history. It's basically, in the Arabic world, it was known as al-Luban, which I'm actually half Arabic, but I don't speak the language, so I never would have known that. And that basically translates to the milk. And whenever the French kind of explored the world, the Arabic world, they were obsessed with this smell, because in, churches and religions all across the world, whenever you pray, the incense rising was supposed to be the prayers of the people going up to God's ears. That was kind of the thought process in the old days, and that's why churches still to this day use incense. That's the reason. The smoke rising, your prayers, your thoughts to your God's ears. And so the French, of course, didn't want to use the Arabic word. They didn't want to use al-Luban. They wanted their own word, because they're the French. And they came up with Franc Onsens. which basically translates to noble incense. Every French person's ears just started bleeding from that, but you get the gist. And it's basically an incense, or it's basically an aromatic resin that comes from the Boswala tree, which grows in places like Oman and Somalia and stuff like that. There's 5 types. There's the Sakra Boswala, Sarata Boswala, Papifira Boswala, Karteri Boswala, and Farena Boswala. So there's 5 types of Boswala tree that the incense tears are actually plucked from, you could say. And the strongest of the bunch is the Sakra Boswala. So if you ever see like pictures of a random cliffside and this, you know, Boswala tree growing out of the rock, that's the Sakra Boswala. That's where some of the strongest smelling incense tends to come from. How it clings to the rock, I have no idea. But it's basically, this resin is basically tapped by the keepers of the tree who slash the bark and allow the tree to ooze this resin. And when it comes out of the tree, it hardens and they basically pluck it after some time out off of the tree. But that process takes time. And there's only so many trees that you can be harvesting at the same time. And if you harvest it too quickly without allowing the tree to heal, apparently the incense quality is not as good. So a couple other things I wrote down. I mentioned it smells piney and it smells resiny. There's 2 main materials that make up frankincense: apine and octanol. And apparently apine is found in lemon peels and coniferous type trees, pine trees, for example. And octanol smells like this waxy, orangey, you know, fruity type peel. And perfumers can use or make the incense go to one way or another. I don't know the process, but that's apparently what I read. So that's some background. If you're still stuck around for 7 minutes of background and scent of the day, bravo. Now we're gonna move on to the fragrances. And again, my videos are long. I'm not doing this to the YouTube algorithms. I don't care whether, you know, people don't like sitting through this. I'm doing this for the real frag heads who wanna learn. And this video will be another long one, probably an hour video, because I picked a lot of fragrances to show you guys. But let's start with the first one that is the most realistic incense. This is the closest incense fragrance that I think embodies this, this material just as the way it is, just like this. And that's a fragrance called Bois d'Onsens by Armani. Now, there is a problem with incense, the material, with making a fragrance smell of the note of incense, and that's that there's this equation. The more realistic the incense smells, the shorter the lifespan. So this fragrance came out in 2004, and it's a very simple fragrance. It was created by Michel Almarac, and there's only labdanum, spices, cedar, vetiver, and olibanum. And apparently they kept going back to Giorgio Armani and saying, hey, let's add to it. And he kept saying, no, 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 I want it to be this. And this is basically what they ended up creating, the very first run that they made of this fragrance. This is in their Privē line, which is their more expensive line. This is an expensive fragrance, especially for something that lasts, you know, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. Everyone has their own take. I've seen people say this lasts 15 minutes. It does have this labdanum in the base, which I actually really enjoy. Eugene pointed it out during one of his videos. And if you wear it and look for it, you will see it. But otherwise, I don't think you'll sense that labdanum in the base. And it comes late into the dry down, which it's hard to let this fragrance dry down because I want to wear it, spray it, wait an hour, spray it again because I love the top notes in this. But if you just want a realistic incense fragrance and you don't mind spending this kind of money, this is a 2014 bottle, by the way. I don't know if it's been reformulated further. So this is 10 years past the launch when this bottle came out. And then now, you know, we're in 2020, almost 2021, almost in 2022. And so I don't know if further reformulations have been done, but this is the first one. Okay, next is a cheapie. And it's done by Nathalie Larson, the queen of cheapies. And this is to incense what Encre Noire is to vetiver, to me. Again, this is my video. It's my opinion. And this is Zadig&Voltaire. This is him. So if you like Encre Noire for value for money, because you can get a $25 to $30 fragrance that smells like one of the most photorealistic vetiver absolutes you could imagine, this is basically her take on incense. Now, there's a little bit more going on, and I think this is a great fragrance. I've heard some people that say they don't like it, it's cheap, it's whatever it is. It's a cheapie, but what she basically did is she took grapefruit and black pepper in the top, incense and vanilla in the mid, and a beautiful sandalwood base. And this does not smell synthetic to me. And I got this 100 ml. This is a tester, by the way. You won't be able to see that. But I got this 100 ml tester, I think, for $48 or something. It's an absolute steal. There's the notes. And so as you can see, it's not a complicated fragrance. But if you want a cheapie, if you like Nathalie Larson's work like I do, check out This Is Him. Okay, next is Bertrand Duchaufour's work, one of the greatest magicians of incense, you could say. This is from a niche house called L'Artisan Parfumeur, and this is Timbuktu. And this is a very interesting fragrance because, yes, there's that incense note, obviously, but there's this green mango and cardamom in the top, which really makes it unique. There's also a note of papyrus and Keru Karunde in the mid, which is a very strange mixture. I don't think I've ever seen the note of Keru Karunde in a fragrance. It's a sort of African flower, if I'm not mistaken. It's supposed to have this sweet, intoxicating smell, similar to jasmine, but unique, if you will. And so, you know, Bertrand Duchaufour is known as the king of incense fragrances. I will show you another from him later on in the video. If you know his work, you probably know what's coming. By the way, before I go any further, I just want to mention, I just realized I forgot one of my favorite incense fragrances. I'm not going to go get it. It's in the safe. It takes me a while to do all this and take all this out, so I hope you guys appreciate it. But the fragrance that I forgot is Towers Incense Extreme, and I have a vintage bottle. I'll show you. Maybe I'll show you on the next video when we start. I'll do my usual. I forgot here. Take a look at this speech. But Towers Incense Extreme, I have a vintage, and that is one of my favorite incenses for, you know, mixing the fact that it's realistic, but it also lasts. So just to put that out there. Okay, next. Next is a fragrance from the house of Matriarch. This is their little packaging. I bought a couple of their Discovery Atomizers when they were having their Christmas sale. And this is how they come in this little sleeve. And this is a fragrance called Devotion. And the House of Matriarch, oh, that's such a good incense. The House of Matriarch is an interesting house because they're supposedly 100% natural, or very close to 100% natural. Let's say like 99.9% natural, right, is what they claim. And they're very expensive. And it's very hard to do natural perfumery well because the synthetics kind of hold everything together. Roja Dove is famous for giving an example. If you use 100% cotton in a shirt, it's not going to move with your body. It's not flexible, you know. But if you add 1% Xylon or whatever material that, you know, they use, you know, if they add nylon or whatever it may be, then it helps the shirt fit to you. Even though it's 99% cotton, synthetics help. And he gave the same example in perfumery. I've given this a full wear, and there is a lot going on. There's myrrh, olibanum, ambergris, some of my favorite ingredients. Apopanax, oud, there's spices, there's leather, there's even this interesting tea note, and there's ambrette, which is kind of like a synthetic musk. Not synthetic, I think it comes from a plant. It's called musk mallow. There's vanilla, there's a touch of vanilla in the base, and woody notes, which who knows what that is, probably some synthetic sandalwood. But this is a fantastic incense fragrance for something natural. The price is outrageous, though. I only bought this because I got 40% off, and so I got a pretty good deal. If you like Bois Onsens, if you like the natural smelling incense, this is one to definitely check out. And by the way, they sent me some really cool things. They sent me some incense cones, which maybe I'll burn tonight for New Year's. It says, incense is the original perfume and the life breath of poets, dreamers, and mystics around the world. And they also sent me this Palo Santo wood, which I have yet to burn. Apparently you just burn the tip and put it out and let it kind of fragrance the air. And this has a different smell than regular incense, but so they're an interesting brand. Check them out. They are expensive, but if you can get them on sale, they're worth checking out. Okay, next we're gonna do a Eldo Etat Libre d'Orange, and this is Rien. And there is a lot going on in this fragrance. I love leather fragrances. This is one of my favorite leather fragrances. It was composed by Antoine Lee, who's doing Eugene's fragrances, which I'm very excited to look forward to next year. And this came out in 2006, and there's been some reformulations. I wish I would have grabbed a couple of my other Eldo bottles, they had a version that the cap was only like this gunmetal gray with nothing on top and raised lettering. And now they have one where you've got this writing on there. This is the newer version. So I don't know if there's been reformulations. I still like this newer version. But if anyone knows if there has been reformulations, let me know. But this is a leather with olibanum and patchouli and oak moss. And there's even an iris note in here, which kind of powders everything. It is just an insane. There's cumin, black pepper, styrax. I mean, there's so much going on. This is such a complex fragrance. So this is one where incense is used to complement the rest of the fragrance. So it's not a pure incense, but, you know, worth mentioning. Okay, this is a very hidden gem, long discontinued, hard to find. I've shown this off on one of my haul videos before. It's not even in Fragrantica, but it's called J. Casanova Pour Homme. J. Casanova Pour Homme. This is a house that was owned by a larger conglomerate in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in the 1980s. And basically, in a nutshell, this is a green incense fragrance. That's what this is. It's a green incense. So it has thyme and this floral feel at the top. And then it has water lily, osmanthus, and spices in the mid. And the base is made up of sandalwood, musk, mandarin orange, and frankincense. And it's basically a green take on incense. So very interesting fragrance. I could totally see somebody in the Middle East in the 1980s before there were, you know, $2,000 Roja doves and $1,000 Frederick Mall desert gems, you know, and from the Gulf collection. And I could totally see someone with some money rocking something like this. I got a good deal on this from Enchante. Thanks again, Amouage. If you want to try to find some vintage fragrances, check out his website, enchanteperfumes.com. And, you know, if you like this kind of under-the-radar, strange stuff like I do, and you like incense, this is an interesting one to check out because it smells almost like an 80s fragrance, but with an incense wrapper around it. It's interesting. Now, another hidden gem, which I absolutely love, and there's different versions of this, so you have to be careful. I haven't smelled the new version, so don't hold me to it if you get it and don't like it. But this version is a winner for me big time. This was a blind buy. It's from the house of Jacques Fath, and this is Pour l'Homme. You can see the cap on this one is a certain way. Take a look at how the cap looks, and how everything looks here, because the newer version, I think, has a different cap and maybe just a little different emblem here or something. I can't remember exactly. But this fragrance reminds me of a very expensive Roja Dove called Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And I have a decant of that. I didn't bring it because I brought another Roja to show you later instead that is more in the Olibanum vein. And but what's interesting about this is, oh, it's so good. It is sweet, which I normally don't like sweet fragrances, but I think that's why it reminds me of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because there's this raspberry note in this that mixes with the mint and grapefruit and citruses in the top. But also you get this floral heart, and you get this Olibanum, tonka, patchouli musk base that just really is out of left field. I think this came out in the 90s, and I don't know how well it did. It was created by Olivier Gilloton, which I'm not too familiar with his work. But this came out in 1998, and I think it was quickly discontinued. Apparently it didn't sell well, but as far as frag heads like me, this is such an interesting masculine fragrance. Such an interesting fragrance. And you can still find these discontinued bottles completely full. It's a 4.2 ounce, 125 ml, and I think I paid 60 or 80 bucks or something. So you're not paying an arm and a leg. The prices aren't skyrocketed on this. So get this while you can. I think as the years go by and supply dwindles and word gets out on what this is, that more and more people will gravitate towards it, and you'll see the prices start to go up. Okay. Next is a Diptyque, and this is a very simple fragrance. This is a fragrance that goes to show that you do not have to do complex perfumery to make a good fragrance. And this is called Eau Duelle. And this is the EDT. The EDTs are white-faced labels. The EDPs are black. So that's how you can easily tell Diptyques apart. And they always have this beautiful artwork on the back. And Eau Duelle is about two things. It is about vanilla and incense. And those two things basically fight each other throughout the fragrance. They vie for position throughout the entire life of the fragrance. It happens. It's the most interesting thing ever. I love this fragrance. I think a woman could easily wear this and smell just completely sexy. It is a niche fragrance, but it's not very expensive. I think they might have discontinued the EDT, and they're only doing EDPs now. I'm not really sure what's going on with Diptyque's EDP comparison, but this was composed by Fabrice Pellegrin, and this came out about a decade ago, 2010. There is a note of elemi resin in here as well. So there's Olibanum, but there's also elemi resin. And that elemi resin adds an extra oily lemoniness when it mixes with the Olibanum. There's also a black tea note in here, and there's supposedly ambergris and saffron, but this is a gorgeous composition. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm a little surprised it doesn't get more talk in the fragrance community, because this is niche, really done well, not complex, just beautifully done fragrance. Very comforting. You could wear this sitting around the house. You could wear this to a date. You could wear this pretty much anywhere, but I love this fragrance. Eau Duelle deserves more hype. Next is a niche fragrance that is very expensive. I think Gucci's a little insane for what they ask for this, but it was done by Alberto Morillas. It is in their private line. I don't know what they even call this private line, but this is a fragrance called A Midnight Stroll. And this is also a very simple fragrance. They have done one of the things that I hate most in modern perfumery, in that they only give you 3 notes. I like to know more about the fragrance. but they claim that there's incense in the top, cade oil in the mid, cypress in the base. So this is incense and cypress, basically. And it does feel, you know, it does feel like a stroll in the midnight, maybe with the full moon, and, you know, maybe you're with somebody you love or something like that, and you're walking and holding hands. It feels kind of like that. It is a beautiful fragrance, though. Beautiful incense. One of my favorite modern takes on incense, I think, that I've ever smelled. And this is completely unisex again, just like Eau Duelle. I think both of these would go very well on a woman, and I think both of these would go well on a confident man. So both of these are on my list, and both of them are simple, actually. They're not complex fragrances, but they're both niche. Gucci isn't a niche. This is a designer, but it's in its higher end. It's competing with niche houses. The presentation's gorgeous with the, you know, with the bottle drawn, you know, the drawing on the bottle, almost like someone took a paintbrush and drew this beautiful design here. It's just, you know, it's just on the bottle, like it looks like a drawing, and then the cap to match. Each one of these, I think, has some sort of animal with it. This one's the leopard. But anyways, if you like incense, a midnight stroll should be on your list to sniff. And then one out of left field, and I'm probably going to get a lot of slack for this, but I don't care, because this is my list, and I'm always going to tell you guys what I like and what I think, and that's that. And this is Sauvage Parfum. This is the Parfum only. Don't get the EDT or don't get the EDP and come back and say, oh, there's no incense in it. Only the Parfum has incense. Basically what they did is they took Sauvage and they wrapped it up with Olibanum and Elemi. This also has that Olibanum Elemi mixture. Just like I said, Eau Duelle uses Elemi and Olibanum in combination. I think Elemi feels like incense, if I understand it properly, but it's even more lemony. So even though incense is in the base in this fragrance, Elemi is in the top. So it feels like you're smelling incense as the alcohol dries off of your hand and evaporates. You feel like you're constantly smelling incense, even though maybe in the top, it's the Elemi. This is my favorite, only blue fragrance I own, actually. The only one. And the reason is because of the incense. So as you can see, I am an incense lover. I make decisions on what to buy, sometimes based on whether there is a good incense note or not. I am a sucker for a good incense note. Okay, next is a Comme de Garcons. If you know what's coming, you know. It's a fragrance from Mark Buxton called Two Man. And this is my favorite Comme de Garcons fragrance that I've ever got my nose on. It came out a while ago, actually. It came out all the way back in 2004 and kind of kicked off the incense trend. These two came out in the same year. The Bois d'Onsens and Two Man. Of the two, this is the more interesting, I would say, if you want something more than just an incense note. But if you want like almost like a strictly incense soliflor, then this is the one to go with, the Bois d'Onsens. But back to Two Man, there's some interesting notes in here like mahogany, ebony wood, vetiver. There is an iris accord that, you know, kind of softens everything up. But in the top, there's these aldehydes, nutmeg, caraway. There's a kumquat and even a mint note. But you get the incense right away. This is a very unique fragrance. This could easily be a signature scent, I think, because if you smelled like this all the time, if you're the kind of person that likes to wear one fragrance, if you smelled like this all the time, I think that it would be very recognizable and very unique and really make you stand out. And I see this as a very mature man's fragrance, you know, someone that really has his stuff together. But beautiful incense fragrance. I think this really kicked off a trend of incense over the last, you know, 13 years or whatever it is. So check this one out if you haven't sniffed it before. This bottle, by the way, I think is before Comme de Garcons was bought by Puig, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Yeah, no, I am wrong. This is when They were already bought by Puig. It says it right there. So I don't know how to date this, but I don't think this is a brand new bottle. Let's put it that way. Okay. Next is a Tom Ford release, not a Tom Ford fragrance, but a Tom Ford release when he was creative director at Gucci. And this is Gucci Pour Homme, the original. This is an icon in the fragrance community. This is a unicorn. This is something that people will spend $500, $600, $800 a bottle. As you can see, I bought a partial. I didn't use all this. I bought this off of Moudessir because I wanted to experience this and understand what the hype was about. And if you like incense, if you like fragrances like this, these two actually kind of remind me of each other. This came out in 2003, interestingly enough, and this came out a year later. And so there were some borrowings going on between the houses in that time, because these two, even though they don't smell exactly the same, they feel the same, if that makes sense. Even the color of the juice kind of looks like the color of this bottle. And, you know, it's interesting because this is a smoky, woodsy fragrance. Michel Almarac composed this. This is one of his most famous compositions, along with Fahrenheit, for Michel Almarac. And it's a fragrance that, is it worth $500, $600, $700? Probably not. But it is a very special fragrance. And in fact, it's so special, if you don't feel like putting out the big money. Look at the bottle, by the way. I love this bottle. It's so heavy. This is a heavy bottle. And they didn't spare any expense on the big cap. So I love this presentation. Gorgeous. Gucci Pour Homme 2 is in the same exact presentation. So if you don't feel like paying the big money to try to get Gucci Pour Homme 1, there's a couple things you can do. You can go the cheap route and get Bentley for Men Absolute, not the Intense, but the Absolute version, which is, I think, very close. It feels like Michel Almarac took his formula and just went to Bentley and plopped it down and said, all right, let's dust this formula off. I created this in 2003. It's now 2014, and there's a demand for it again. And this, I don't know how to date these bottles or tell them or whatever it may be, but there's also a version that has like a gold cap. I think that came out in the Middle East. I think these came out in North America. I don't know. But, you know, the smells are very similar. It smells like, you know, they just dusted off the formula, and there's this papyrus note that runs through both that's very evident. And so it's an interesting fragrance. You know, it's you can find this for 20 or 30 bucks versus trying to pay 500 bucks for the original, which again, I got a partial for 50 or 60 or whatever it is. This is definitely the way to go, especially if you have a big collection. Sometimes partial bottles are a blessing in disguise. But that is Gucci Pour Homme 1 / Bentley for Men Absolute. And then another Tom Ford release when he was at Gucci. I can't believe this fragrance is discontinued after smelling it. It is just... Oh, by the way, before I move on to this one, I want to say that Michel Almarac went on to create his own brand called Parle-moi de Parfum, and he re-released this formula here again in a fragrance called Papyrus Oud, and it came out in 2018. I don't have a bottle of that, but I hear it is basically this, dusted off for his own brand. This is discontinued now, and so I think he can say, hey, it's, you know, people want this, let's release it, kind of thing, you know, with better ingredients than Bentley for Men Absolute. Okay, next is Gucci Envy for Men. And this is an outstanding fragrance. I can't believe they discontinued this. It is so good. It has this ginger top note, which is very distinctive, but then it instantly goes right into the heavier incense vanilla. There's tobacco in this. This is such a great masculine release. And this only came out 20 years ago, 1998. 23 years ago, this came out, and this is what designers used to be. It's an absolute shame that this is this is what a designer fragrance used to be, and now we just get crap like Dylan Blue and God knows what else. So this was distributed, by the way, by Scannon. I don't know if there's different distributors on this, but you can kind of see some stuff floating around in there. But I can assure you it smells absolutely fantastic. I wish I had more juice than this, but to be honest, it's getting so hard to find and so expensive that I'm very lucky to have what I have for the price that I paid for it. This is a pure love for me, and I think this is an all year. You can wear this in the cold, you can wear it in the heat, you can wear it anytime, anywhere. Just a gorgeous fragrance. Okay, next we're gonna move on to Amouages. I probably could have pulled out all of my Amouages, but in the sense of time, I only pulled out 5 that embody the incense note. You could argue there are others, and I won't disagree with you, but just to cut this video down a bit, I just pulled out 5 Amouages that have my favorite incense notes. Number 1 is Dia Man. And Dia Man is a fragrance that came out in 2002, so it's about 20 years old, and it has this incense cardamom labdanum mixture that mixes with this peony note, which is a flower that's very soft. You could be right next to a peony and have no clue it's there. You have to get your nose straight up into it to smell it, but it has one of the most beautiful smells, and you never see this kind of stuff in masculine perfumery. But this is done to perfection. This is a older bottle when they used to do the bottom like this. I'm surprised this doesn't get more talk, honestly, in the community. Probably because it's soft. It's a soft fragrance. It's not a fragrance that's gonna completely beast mode everybody, you know. But just if you enjoy wearing perfumery for yourself, this is so good. I don't know if it gets better than this, actually. The smell is 11 out of 10. It just doesn't project. It lasts a long time, but it doesn't project. But beautiful, beautiful fragrance. If you like an incense note and you've never smelled Dia Man, this is definitely one to put on your list. And then next, you know what's coming. Back to the king of incense, Bertrand Duchaufour. This is Jubillation XXV. And this is a made in Oman bottle. I think I've probably shown this before. This is a made in Oman bottle. And I dropped this bottle and almost had a heart attack. You can see the damage to the atomizer. But luckily, Amouage uses good materials and it still sprays. But this is this blackberry, it's a complex fragrance, by the way, so I'm not going to be able to describe it in a couple of minutes. But it's basically this blackberry, incense, orange, with this animalic honey. There's a bay leaf note here, which I love. There's clove, and then there's this heavy base of Apopanax, which is sweet myrrh, oud, patchouli. There's ambergris, immortelle, musk, oak moss. This is so good. One of the greatest Bertrand Duchaufour fragrances of all time. You could argue one of the best Amouage masculine releases of all time. And there's a beautiful oily Olibanum in this that just contrasts that blackberry note in the top so beautifully. Oh, it's such a great fragrance. Again, an all year round fragrance in my opinion. Wear this whenever you want, whenever you want. You'll be the best smelling guy in the room. And then, next, we're going to go to Amouage's take on the Silk Road, which is Epic Man. And this is also a made in Oman bottle. I don't think you'll be able to see it because it's so dark. The bottom is just so dark, and you've got to get the lighting just right to see the writing. But long story short, is this is a fantastic take on Olibanum, because there's a lot going on here as well. There's pink pepper and saffron and myrrh, and there's this myrtle and mace mixture in the top, which really sets this one apart. The greenness of the bottle, look at that emerald green, it's just absolutely gorgeous. With, of course, Amouage's matching Swarovski crystal. I don't really care about presentations normally, but Amouage's presentations are bar none. And then there's this oud and incense and leather and castoreum in the base. Oh, so good. You know, these old school Amouages are top of the line for an incense lover. And then next, the Blue Beast is Interlude Man, which again, you talk about unique. I mean, this is what a niche house should be. These 4 fragrances that I just showed. Interlude came out in 2012, and I believe Epic came out in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe Jubillation 25, I think that one came out in 2010. 2008, I'm sorry, 2008, to celebrate the 25th anniversary. And so you can kind of see the progression here, but this is just this beautiful ambery. It smells like you're in a, Chinese opium tent, and incense and fragrance is just wafting all around you. There's this crazy note of oregano in the top, which people don't like. I love it. This is created by Pierre Negrin, and incense in the mid, incense in the base. I mean, this is incense overload, but there's this patchouli oud in the base that really gives it a strong base, and this fragrance lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. There's sweet myrrh. It's unbelievable. If you don't mind wearing a beast mode fragrance, the Blue Beast Interlude Man is an incense fragrance like no other. And then the most modern one of the bunch that I picked, and that is Journey Man. And Journey Man is a fragrance that incorporates tobacco, but almost like in an Amouage style, because there's this incense meets cypriol note. I love the note of cypriol, actually, when it's done right, when it's not overdone. I think it's a very strong note. But there's this Sichuan pepper / cardamom top that mixes with the tobacco and incense, and then the leather and the cypriol oil in the base. That is just, oh, it's so good. No one talks about this either. Look at the presentation again, just regal. I mean, this is, it's royal. Regal is the only thing that comes to mind that fits it the best. And I love tobacco fragrances. I could also put this in a tobacco list, but it works very well as an incense fragrance. And then last, I just wanted to save the one that I want to get a full bottle of. I've showed this before in my Roja Parfums video. This is one of the best new incense fragrances I've ever gotten my nose on. One of the fragrances from the Gulf collection I think is actually worth picking up. And this is Sultanate of Oman. And Sultanate of Oman is Roja's take on an incense fragrance. Again, Oman is known for their incense, hence why I showed you the Omani incense from the beginning. And this is not going to focus, but whatever. And why I kind of ended with the Amouages. They're an Omani house. But Sultanate of Oman, it takes Roja's, Roja, he Rojas everything up, is the only way that I can put it. There's a million notes in this thing. But there is a fruity raspberry that you get, but it's not like Saudi Arabia where it's really fruity. This just kind of complements everything. There's his signature rose, violet, jasmine combo, which I think is what really gives Roja's that floral mid. I think is very similar across a lot of Rojas. And I think, whoever's creating his fragrances, whoever his perfumer is, wink, wink, is using that formula that really gives it a Roja DNA. But this has so much going on in the base. Olibanum, Oud, Guardian Balsam, Saffron, Birch, Elemi. There's that Birch and Elemi combo again. Gaiac Wood, Papyrus, Amiris, Carrot Seed, Orris Root, Cedar, Oak Moss, Musk, Cardamom, Sandalwood. I mean, this is a revelation, and he prices it like it's a revelation. This is like $400 or $500 a bottle for 50 ml, which is not very much. It's so good though. This is one of the best incense fragrances out there. It's a modern take. So this is a straight up incense soliflor. I mentioned some of the other ones. This is like a modern take on incense is the way that I would view it. A very high-end take on incense. And he did a bang-up job on this one. Bang-up job. I'm sorry I forgot the Andy Tower Incense Extreme. I think you guys would have really enjoyed seeing that bottle as it is the vintage bottle, but sometimes I forget stuff and I don't want to stop and start and make, cut it and all that stuff. So you guys will just see it in the next video. So I really appreciate you spending some time with me and closing out 2021. I wish everyone a safe, healthy, prosperous new year in 2022. And I will see you guys on the next video. And if you guys have any recommendations to continue my This Is Not a Top 10 series, please let me know. Goodbye, guys, and Happy New Year.